This video, we're going to be reviewing the Engwe C20 Pro, and I want to thank Engwe for sending me this bike for review. It is the 500 watt version, and believe it or not, it is under $1,000. In fact, at the time of making this video, it's under $900. You get a 500 watt motor, a 10 amp hour battery, and a bike that is absolutely just so much fun to ride. Let's get started, first with the unboxing, riding, and specs. I'll see you in the video. As you will see here, unboxing and putting together the Engwe C20 Pro was pretty easy to do. Take out the frame from the box and took off a bunch of the styrofoam coverings that are around it. Then I have to put in the neck into the frame of the bike. What I usually like to do is then put in flat out tire sealant into each of my tires here. And although the Engwe C20 Pro comes with puncture proof tires, the nails and the thorns that are in my area here are just really bad. So I always put extra sealant in it just to be sure I don't get flat tires, especially when I'm doing a video filming. That will always happen right after the unboxing is done. So I put the sealant in both tires. After that, I will then go ahead and put on the fenders onto the bike here. It took me a little while to figure out which way they go, but once I had that put on there, just kind of screw them on. They fit nice and neat. And at this point here, what you'll see is I tested out the motor just to make sure that's running fine. And the headlight was turned on, angled properly. And then I wanted to fold the bike so I could see the battery, what we got there. So you see the folding is pretty easy to do. Here we have our 48 volt, 10 amp hour battery. It works out really well. You can see here also how small this bike folds into. So it'll fit easily into a trunk of a car or even in an RV. And that's all that was to it, to go ahead and unbox and assemble the bike. All right, this is the Engwe C20 Pro. Now this version is the 500 watt version, runs for $899 at the time of this recording. They do have a 350 watt version. And I gotta say, I think if you're gonna get one of these, if you're more of the experienced rider side, I would probably recommend going with the 500 watt. If you're new to e-bikes, then maybe the 350 would be more your comfort. But always keep in mind, as you get more comfortable, you might want more power. If you have the 500, it'll already be there for you. Just a thought. Let's go ahead and start with the back of this bike here. We're gonna go with the tire, which is the same on the front and the back. These are Chow Yang 3-inch wide tires by 20-inch. So these 20 by 3-inch tires actually feel kind of they really don't have that fat tires feel, I gotta say that, but they also are a lot more nimble because of that. These tires they work really great. They almost have a BMX bike type feel to it. Then moving in toward the center here, a 7-cog gearing in the back. I do not know what gearing it is. I believe it's 14 tooth, maybe the 28. So next we have our tourney shifter, again a 7-speed. It did come with a derailleur guard, but it was meant during shipping. That is not uncommon for that to actually happen with FedEx. I've had multiple bikes that have had that. Usually I bend it back, but in this case, I decided I'll just take it off. Let's go ahead and we're gonna move a little bit forward. These fenders, this is just a plastic fender. It was attached. It came out separately. You'll see that in the unboxing video that it does have these added on after fact, so you don't really need to have it. Maybe shouldn't have put it on because in my area it doesn't rain hardly at all, unfortunately, so I don't really need something like that. But for the look of it, so that everybody will know what it looks like, I decided I'll put it on there. It looks pretty cool without it as well. You can see those pictures without the fenders on their website. Moving a little more forward, we do have foldable pedals. These do flip in and fold, grabbing here, and then you can easily just fold them down. That actually loses about an extra almost 8 inches when you talk about both sides being folded in for the width of the bike. Very handy to have. You have a double guard chain ring here. This is plastic, but it does its job. And I don't know how many tooth is in the front either. That's another thing I did not find on the website. As you can see here, this is a foldable bike, so it does make for a very compact fold down if you want to go ahead and carry it around. Before we move any more forward, I want to talk about the seat. This is a pretty soft saddle. I really actually do like it. You know, your solid seat post, this is actually your standard, so that has everything that you really need to go ahead and get started riding. It's not super soft, but it is really soft for a stock saddle. A lot of other bikes have a lot harder one. Your seat is adjustable quite a bit here. It does come out really high, so you do have that ability to go ahead and have for taller riders. For shorter riders, I'm 5'5", and as you can see, there's probably about 2 to 3 inches left here. You can probably go down to 5'2". I think they actually say 5 feet. I just want to go ahead and point this out. It does have a stand for when you do your folding. And as we look at the front of this bike, we have our same Chaoyang tires. Now, another thing I want to point out about the tires, they do say that it's puncture proof. As you will see in the unboxing video or assembly, I do actually put in my own flat out inside of these tires, just because as puncture proof as anybody says they are, my area, we have thorns, and we've already had 3 bikes have flats on their first rides for reviewing, so just never want to take that chance again. As you can see, it is a quick release that we have here as well. You know, a bike that you can really compact down in size. Now, we also have suspension fork here, which is really soft. They're not adjustable, but they're so soft and really comfy that I actually first thought that maybe I had put too little pressure in my tires. That's how soft they are. So it absorbs every bump. The headlight that we have here is really bright. I'll go ahead and see if I can give you a sample of that. So while I'm turning it on, I'm going to turn on the bike real quick by pushing this bottom here. It goes on, and then you hit this bottom button here. The headlight should be on. So I'm going to go ahead and let's move for the front. And as you can see, right now in the middle of the day at 11 o'clock, and how bright it is, you still do get a light that is visible. So at night, it's a really bright light. I really do like this light quite a bit. As we move up a little higher, again, this fender, by the way, doesn't have to be added on, but it is part of the assembly if you want to add on. It's just a piece of plastic to keep some maybe splashing up there. This is our quick release neck. Really easy to go ahead and bring this down by pushing this forward. This will actually fold down. So that's a really easy thing to go ahead and fold. You have another part here that actually will allow you to bring your handlebars up and down even higher. Now, these 2 accessories here, cell phone and the water bottle holder, we do not have any water bottle bosses or cage bosses here anywhere on the bike. So, you know, we do sell these ebikeproducts.com. You can buy some of these at our website. They come in 2 packs too, because you can put one on each side for even like holding your wallet or your keys. Of course, a cell phone holder makes it very convenient, as you see in the riding footage. We do have a half twist throttle. And then you also have, these are Wuxing brake handles. I've seen these on a few other bikes as well that have already come through for review. They actually work adequately fine. No complaints, no issues with that. Again, a standard SIS shifter by Shimano. These are very standard, almost a lot of major bikes actually in these type of price ranges. Again, this bike is only at $899. So here is the settings, how this display actually works. You just hold the bottom button here, and what happens is you hold it for a second or 2, it turns on your display. And this is not one of those really pretty colorful displays, but honestly, you don't really need to have a pretty colorful display when you're riding an e-bike. You're not going to be staring at that while you're riding, more so you just need to be able to see it. And look how clear this thing is, even in bright daylight. In fact, let's move out of the shade, and it's so clear. And then you know, I mean, what's great is I don't even have that flicker that normally happens from frame rate. So anyway, let's go back through this. It is a nice bright display. I do have it changed to mile an hour. What does come default as kilometers an hour. And as I'm going through this setting real fast, that's the one thing I'll show you how to change. Again, this is the C20 Pro 500 watt, and I believe the setting should be the same in others. Now I've seen other people talk about there being a lock code, and I don't have a lock code on this, and I think they might have taken that off, realizing too many people need support when you have a code that's not published. So basically, I turn on the bike, it starts off at 0. When you go to press the up button here, you go to PAS 1. That 1 though also controls the top speed of your throttle. So you don't get full throttle, and you get actually no throttle at 0. Just something to keep in mind. The bike will need to, as soon as you turn it on, you might want to bump up your PAS levels so that you have throttle ability right away. And like I said, it does stop at a top speed of whatever your PS settings are. And it goes at a pretty low number and works its way up all the way up to 25 or 26 miles an hour. This bike also has an automatic cruise control. Something else I didn't mention in going over the other parts of the specs, this cruise control is not necessarily one of my favorites, because of the fact is I'd rather have control of my cruise control. But if you hold your speed for about 2 to 3 seconds, it just kind of stays. And in other bikes I've had, some of them actually will disengage cruise control when you pedal a little. This one does not. So just keep that in mind. That's another thing on this. The cruise control automatically kicks on when you're throttling at a certain amount of speed. And here's your, again, PAS levels going up and down. You will also have your light at the bottom here. There's a switch. Sorry, this is actually in the way, but there's a button here, and this is for your headlight. And when I push on it, look at the top of the screen here, you'll notice that the headlight goes on and off. So that's your setting there. And the dimming actually happens too, which is a nice feature, because if you have your headlight on at night, you kind of want your screen to be dim so that it's not glaring so brightly at you. You have your top button here, which does your different settings of average, your miles per hour. This is your trip meter, your full odometer, your max speed, your high speed for that last trip, and then your average speed. So that's kind of nice. There we have, oh, let's go ahead and go to 6. So if you want to get into the settings real quick, you hold down your plus and minus together. You'll see this menu come in, and I don't have a menu option setting, but I did quickly figure out how to change your mile per hour from kilometers or kilometers per hour to back. You press the up button twice till you see UN for unit of, for measure. Then you hit this top button here. It'll go into your menu for the units, and you change it when you see, it says mile an hour now. If I hit up, it goes to kilometers an hour. And that's for the 2 settings that are available. Again, there's mile an hour, kilometers an hour, put it back to mile an hour, and then basically hit the enter. And to get out of the menu, then you just go ahead and turn off the bike and then turn it back on. And there you go, you're gonna have your settings there. Again, 7-speed shifter with 5 PAS levels. There's a lot of range that you have your ability to go up hills, or if you need to go pick up some speed. At 26 miles an hour, you will start to air pedal. A lot of times that's typical of bikes with this type of gearing ratio. It also has a 10 amp hour battery. I forgot to go ahead and mention about that. One of the good things about this bike is that it does have a 48 volt 10 amp hour battery. Now the 350 watt version of this C20, which is only $799, comes with a larger, I think either 13 or 15 amp hour battery, which is really strange, but it is only 36 volts. So you get, I guess, more range, but a lot less power. But you know, this one, there is no lack of power in it. You do see on some of the ride footage that I do have a 26 mile an hour steady ride at top speeds, which actually picks up pretty quickly. For these size tires at 26 miles an hour, it's pretty fast. I want to go over to this side, and I know that we already finished the back, but let's talk about this 500 watt motor. Also goes up to 850 watts max peak, which is pretty incredible in itself with a bike this small. So just keep that in mind. You do have a lot of power actually being put out. Engwe is actually known for pretty fast bikes all in all. But the other thing is that we have 160 millimeter rotors in the back here with mechanical disc brakes. After a little bit of riding, the brake rubbing and noise completely just disappeared. I did do adjustments, but there's a little bit of rub in the beginning, but now the rub is completely gone. It actually feels really nice. I was a little concerned that we might hear rubbing throughout the ride, but it went away pretty quick right after first initial break-ins of that. Again, you have the same brakes here, easy to adjust. 160 millimeter rotors. This is your port to go ahead and do your charging on the bike. I did charge it last night, but I took the battery into the house when I did it. So yeah, you have your port here so that you can go ahead and charge right in there. And then these type of bikes are actually becoming more popular. I mean, we are seeing more and more 3-inch size tire bikes with lower power on them, 500 rather than a 750, but a lot of them even come at only 350s. In fact, we even see others that only use single speed. Having multiple gears is an advantage as long as you're not air pedaling. I like this bike. I highly recommend this be a consideration if someone is looking for a bike, you know, in the sub $1,000 range. They want something a little higher end than a single speed 350 watt at $900. This kind of pushes all the right buttons for a great value. So who would this bike be for? I mean, what kind of rider would be really interested in getting this? I would actually say it is very versatile for a lot of different riders. My first thought is like a college student, those that have big campuses to get around on. If a scooter is not an option, they want to actually have a bike, they could do something like this. It does not come with a rack. You could probably buy one of those other third-party racks that'll fit on the seat post. But for the price point, $900, you know, it'll fit in a dorm room pretty well. I mean, you can fold it in the corner, put it next to a desk. And the 10 amp hour battery, it's not a huge battery, but you know, it'll probably easily get you to 25 miles per charge. At a minimum. Because it has gearing that you can be helping it with, you can also use this as a commuter for short commutes. I wouldn't say this is great maybe for long range commuting, although it is possible. I mean, not saying that you can't do it. It also is a lot lighter than some of the fat tire 4-inch bikes, a lot more nimble as well to have that. So if you have tight space, or you're, you know, the thing is, the heavier a bike, the stronger you might need to be, not necessarily for balancing, but for movement around, and you know, to move the bike out of the way or pushing it around. Even when you're coming to stop, you may not notice it offhand, how much extra energy that you're using to move your bike or turn your bike or stay balanced. But when you have a lighter bike compared to a heavier bike, I definitely noticed the difference on the weight, even for a 10-pound difference on a bike, how much more tired I am after longer rides. If you need something that is foldable, it would be something to consider for those of you who are RVers, but you don't want something too small where it feels like a kid's bike. This has a very solid ride to it, but you don't want something too big where it's going to be hard to fit in the RV. This is kind of a good in between. It has a lot of power, so for those of you who are kind of adventurous and have that outdoor living style, plus the front suspension does help quite a bit and making the ride more smooth. Now, one thing I also want to point out is that it does require the key to be in for the battery to stay active. To turn off the bike, you basically can turn once and the key will come out. And then of course, if you want to remove the battery, you push up and turn and the pin will come out, and then you can pull the battery out when it's folded. But you do need the key to be on in order for it to go, and it doesn't come out, it stays in at that time. So that's a safety feature. You know, if somebody steals your bike, or if they know how these bikes operate, without the key, it's pretty useless because the battery won't become operational. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Comment below. How does this compare to maybe bikes that you guys already have? What would you consider this? Would it be a good first-timer bikes, or a backup bike, or even a second bike? You know, an upgrade for maybe some other bikes. And don't forget to like and subscribe. And I'll see you guys in the next video.